first episode of Andreas, the Pop Culture Talk podcast. Today, we're going to talk about Batman Forever, the 1995 Joel Schumacher film, directed by Joel Schumacher, produced by Tim Burton. This is the third installment of the initial Batman film series during the 90s. And this year, it has its 20th anniversary. It happened last, what was it? Man, it's June 16th. So last Tuesday, June 16th, 2020 was his 25th anniversary. So, Jayan, overall, what's your opinion of the movie?
I mean, it's fun. It's definitely an enjoyable, very 90s kind of movie. It's a lot sillier than some of the other ones, but, it's fun. It's not, I don't think it's supposed to be anything serious or something, that would last for a long time. It's just something you go see in the theaters and you like it.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, comparing this to, Returns, this was a better fun movie overall. So, as I get older as a Batman fan, I think this movie is the best overall in the Tim Burton, Joel Schumacher saga film series.
Mm-hmm.
It has a focus that Returns didn't have. Returns is just all over the place. It's very mean-spirited kind of film, and of course, I just feel like it didn't have the energy, or like Returns didn't have the energy or the passion that the first Batman movie, 1989 film had.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Batman Forever had, like Joel Schumacher was a Batman fan. He loved Batman, and I think you can see that in the film. Like, there's very cool stuff. Jayan, it's crazy. Like, I didn't realize until like you get into like especially me as a movie guy, like
Mm-hmm.
I never pick up that this movie is the first in the Batman series to include Arkham Asylum. It was never in the Tim Burton films, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I think that could fit with him, but no, it was actually Joel Schumacher.
It's the first one.
Yeah, it's crazy, and obviously this movie introduced Robin, of course, played by Chris O'Donnell. It feels more like a Batman movie, and where the other two just feel like villain-centric films, and it just didn't feel like a Batman movie. So,
yeah, I think it's also like the time in which it was made and the audience who it was made for as well. The 80s Batmans were kind of a reflection of that kind of Cold War time too, and I think this one's more of the kind of the 90s American economic boom, just feeling good, everything's kind of great. It kind of reflects that. And I think it's also kind of a turn towards a younger audience as well. Just having more family-friendly, children-friendly kind of entertainment that Tim Burton didn't really put into his, and he wouldn't really kind of figure out how to balance that until some of his later movies.
Yeah, that's true.
So why did you decide to start with this one, other than the 25th anniversary? Because I know it is the third one in the series.
Well, this year is also, there's a couple of anniversaries. I totally forgot this year. Batman Begins has its anniversary, 15th anniversary. It was on actually Monday, the 15th, which is crazy. But
congratulations to Batman Begins, by the way.
Yep, 15 years it came out. It's crazy. But I feel like, I feel like everyone don't remember this movie. Obviously, there's good reasons, but then also some people unbash this movie too much because it's because Batman and Robin came right after quickly. It came in 1997, and so people think it's the same thing as Batman and Robin. It's not really. The movie, Batman Forever is more of a movie, where Batman and Robin is a toy commercial. As many of the cast members talk about in the behind scenes and the documentaries you see on YouTube or in the film series box set. So and there's a couple of interesting things about Batman Forever that I think is interesting. And there's things about it that you like it's interesting to see how this movie recasts a main actor after just 2 movies. You know, like
Yeah.
that's like literally like a Bond thing. You know, like like Dalton is a good example. Like Timothy Dalton was the latest actor from the 80s. He was in 87 and then 89, but then there was a legal battle with producers and the studio that we're working with, and that like had this long hiatus, and Dalton stepped down in 1994, I think, and then Pierce Brosnan became the new James Bond, and of course, in GoldenEye in 1995, the same year as Batman Forever.
Yeah.
And this movie sets up a couple of things that is like Batman Begins. It feels like a reboot, not really. It does carry some stuff from the Tim Burton films. Obviously,
Yeah.
Alfred and Commissioner Gordon, played by Michael Goff and Pat Hingle. So, and then like the suit of Batman, of course, Val Kilmer's suit is similar to Keaton, but it's a little more like I don't know, like a little more muscle sculpture like the first film, but like a little more organic. And then the colors are more muted. Like the bat symbol in his chest is much more muted than the Keaton one. So
Mm.
it's interesting how it's half a reboot, but it's also somewhat a continuation from Batman Returns, which is sometimes lip service, but so it's a very interesting movie, and eh, and in a way, like it's if like you hear about the Batmania, like '89 was
Yeah.
such huge with the marketing. This had that, I mean, especially with Jim Carrey, being involved, during his rise as a comedic actor. I mean, this like is crazy. Like this movie was right after his big, uh, like splash debut in 1994 with Dumb and Dumber and The Mask, and I can't believe it that three his most iconic films came in 1 year. Ace Ventura and The Mask and Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And this movie, like getting this and his sequel, Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls, is in the same year, 1995. Like that's crazy. Um, yeah. So it's very
Yeah.
interesting. So I want to discuss what you think is the best aspects of the film. What's the best thing about this film you like
The
about
best thing about the film? I think the performances are pretty good, especially from the villains. It's kind of funny to see Tommy Lee Jones in like a pure comedy role, which he doesn't do, especially in his later career.
it? Right.
Um, I think it's interesting to see him going up against Jim Carrey. They're both kind of vying for that big villain role in it. And they play off each other pretty well, actually. So I'd say the villains are a pretty good part of it. I wonder with the bat suit too, if the reason they kind of toned it down a bit for this one is because the villains were kind of bringing all the color to it. So Batman's kind of dark, muted colors, and they're really wacky, vibrant '90s kind of day glow colors.
Wow. Now that's an interesting idea. I never thought about
Mm.
that, but that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, like particularly it showed like the personality of each character, right? How
Yeah.
they are in their moods, and that's a good interesting idea. I actually like that. That's actually pretty good. Um, anything else in best parts about the film, or that's really it?
I'd say that's what I pretty much mainly liked about it. I think it's it's not something you come into for like the deep themes or the, incredible story. It's just fun. And that's all it really needs to be. And I would say even Batman and Robin, even if it is a toy commercial, it's probably an entertaining toy commercial for children. I think especially with movies like that where it's more just supposed to be fun for children than anything else,
Right.
really the audience you have to ask if it's good or not is people who were children in 1997. So I think especially it's kind of like there's like a weird tonal difference where you have these and then you have the Nolan Batman movies, and they're much more serious, so it kind of creates a weird dissonance where you have different movies within the same franchise
Yeah.
being discussed very differently, and it's kind of hard to go from one to the other. Like you can't really talk about Batman Forever or Batman and Robin like it's a Christopher Nolan movie, because it's not, and it didn't really want to be anyways.
No. I agree. I mean, it's just it gets really bad with the Batman fans and the comic book community because of how initially it just it hurt the comic book movie Sandro, right? And the funny thing is 1998 Blade came out, and then 2000 X-Men came out, and then 2002 Spider-Man, the Tobey Maguire film came out. It's instant they
Yeah.
think because these films were so studio community kind of films, but I mean these films were successful. I mean I like you mentioned Batman Robin. I don't want to talk too much about Batman Robin. One of these days we'll discuss the anniversary and go in deep. I don't hate Batman Robin as much as many people. I don't think it's the worst superhero movie. It's not number one for me. It's something else. But I think these films feel like Batman films. It has the things that I want to see in a Batman film with the villains. Um, they have very unique styles from Joel Schumacher. He's a very good director. He's very diverse in his style. The action is very good compared to the Tim Burton ones. And then the production are very high. They're not lazy like some of the more modern films we've seen. Like Fantastic looks cheap and ugly.
Yeah.
Where these films, these two particularly, look glamorous. They look gorgeous to look at. They have this pop that I can at least enjoy. And Batman Robin's main pawn is its tone. It's just all over the place. It's trying to be too goofy, but then they're trying to be too serious with the Affleck stuff. Its tone, their tone is very inconsistent with that, and they were rushed also, and they were rushed into production right away after Forever was successful. I feel like the story of these films, particularly this movie did you know about the Red Book storyline? You see the scene of Bruce getting this Red Book, of Bruce father's diary. That.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about there.
Yeah, if anyone doesn't know, so there was a cut. This movie is also starts the trend of film versions we never got to see, and this film has this complete in space. The opening of Forever was completely different. This opening was supposed to be a much darker one, and I will say I think if I can find the notes here, basically the opening was towards the end you meet this doctor at Arkham Asylum called Dr. Burton, and obviously that's a reference to Tim Burton, which is cool.
Yeah.
Also, that actor passed away. He's a very famous actor in Star Trek. I forgot his name, but I think if you can see it, here. You can say that word, Jan.
Sorry. I can't really see yours. Rene Marat, Auberjonois. Oh, he was Odo. Oh.
Yeah. So unfortunately, he passed away. Rest in peace. So it was. You have one interesting fact about this movie. He's in this movie as Dr. Burton. So that's very cool. He's the head doctor of Arkham Asylum. So the original opening was he heard, I think, a scream or something from Two-Face cell, and the guard opened it, and you see this one guard being hand up in the air, and his blood got cut, and then Two-Face say a word in the wall called "The Bats Will Die." So that was supposed to be the original ending, the original opening of Batman Forever. But of course, the studio wanted to be light, more friendly. So they had to change it. And what we got was the opening was a more action-packed and goofy kind of romp. And then another thing they cut out of this movie was called the Red Diary storyline. So this whole movie, out of all the Batman films, this was the one that focused most of Bruce Wayne and Batman. Pretty much, Val Kilmer's version of Batman is questioning does he want to continue as Batman? Does he want a noble life? And the
Yeah.
storyline, he's having this, you know, he's having PST or something, like he's flashing back of the night of his parents' murder, and the most recurring thing in the flashback is this red book. Obviously, the more we get into those flashbacks, we discover the red book is from Bruce's father. That's Bruce's diary. That's Bruce Wayne's father, Thomas Wayne's diary, and he talks about how he didn't want to go out that night of they're gonna get killed, and he said that Bruce wanted to go to the movie, and and that plays up how Bruce blames himself of the death of his parents. Obviously, and then obviously there's the famous big bat. If you've seen the deleted scenes or like the promo pictures, he goes underneath the cave, the spot where he dropped down during this rainy night, and then he sees this big bat coming at him. He sees it again when he's older, and that's like completing his whole arc in the film. Those stuff gets cut as well because Warner Brothers doesn't want this to be dark or or serious like the Tim Burton film, so they cut that out. And so what we got here is somewhat a forgettable film that doesn't have like resonance or like a meaningful message that you can relate to. It's just like a popcorn like fest with no substance really. So
Yeah, I suppose so. Though I think if you're just watching a movie for the popcorn, that's totally fine. I think that those storylines kind of make sense in it. Like I could imagine, especially since one of the big kind of device in it is the mind reading one, where
yes.
where Riddler and Two-Face are trying to get read people's minds to figure out who Batman is. So there's definitely a way they could throw that stuff in there. But I think tonally it would be kind of really jarring to have on one hand this movie about like PTSD and trauma, and on the other hand kind of this really goofy, wacky movie. I think the Burton movies kind of tried to balance that, where even though they were both fairly dark movies that did have real danger in them. People actually died. They also had in some kind of children-friendly elements as well. The Joker is still pretty silly, but at the same time, he is basically just a crazy mob boss with a gun. So it's interesting how Batman Forever kind of streamlined that a bit and took out the darker elements to it. And I think overall that probably worked better for them. I mean, I can't imagine that the audience is going to see it mainly wanted to watch something darker with more substance in it. They were probably looking for just kind of summer fun there. But yeah, I suppose in terms of its kind of longevity, that might have cut it a bit short. One thing I'm thinking about too is just that kind of like 20 or 30-year cycle where older things come back into fashion, like in the 80s, the 50s were really popular again, and now the 80s are really popular. The next decade up for that will be the 90s, and so the 2020s should have us kind of flashing back to 90s nostalgia, and all of our entertainment might take cues from it. So you think we'll get a Batman Forever boom, or you think it'll come back into style?
Well, I mean, it's. I mean, yes or no, because hopefully people can separate the Batman Robin stink of it.
Mm-hmm.
Just say, well, this movie is more of a movie where Batman was a toy commercial. It's really tough, I think, because these I think that's one of the big problems with the Joel Schumacher films. They have potential, but they don't reach, I think, the things that they have that are very interesting. And Jane, you have a good point about the tone being kind of like inconsistent with these more like psychological stuff that Joel was trying to do in Batman Forever. But like those are the stuff that are very interesting, and like you can pull off a very uneven tone and be successful. I mean, I just think it just makes this movie a lot forgettable and just has no meat in it for people to just get into. But also like I mean, I think Batman Forever is part of everyone's childhood memories. I mean, this was like the level of '89, but not as big as '89. So
Yeah.
I think it will still remember fondly, you know, and it's part of that zeitgeist, I will say. But you know, it's going to be interesting when we get to that point of the '90s nostalgia. And
Yeah.
speaking of the unconsistent tones, I want to get into the worst aspects of the film. What do you think is the worst aspects of the film? Like the worst thing about this film?
Um, I'd say that, well, one of the things looking back on it now would probably be that it wasn't built to last. You know, they intentionally made it very much a product of its time. This is a kind of movie that takes a lot of cues from what's popular at the point when it's made. So that's why it's very 90s, very of a particular era. So looking back, it did date very quickly. And a lot of things like that will date quickly, and that's okay. But
Hmm.
so I think for retrospective purposes, um, we haven't tapped into that same pool of references in modern Batman movies. So it does seem out of step with the path that we've taken. So
Yeah,
it's hard to put in line or kind of set up in relationship to the other Batman movies that have come out since then. Thinking of the Nolan ones and the more recent ones, which are much more dark. They're meant to include a lot of those themes, and it seems like that's what the modern audience is kind of trying to pull towards the modern comic book audiences. Movies with darker themes that pull more from comics, especially comics from like the '80s. I know is inspiration.
yeah, um, yeah. I can understand that. I somewhat disagree. These Batman films feel timeless. It I think I think I think the worst aspect is some of the characterization of
Mhm.
characters. That's my main problem with this film. You mentioned Two Face. He's the worst aspect of the duo. Like in my opinion,
Mhm.
I respect your opinion, Jay, and I like how you play it. It's true. He. Have you seen Under Siege?
Uh,
The- uh, the Steven Seagal film. That's the
uh,
like Die Hard on and Navy ships.
no, I haven't seen that one.
Okay, that's another Tommy Lee Jones performance you should check out. That's where he's also over the top and like having fun. Like he's actually good in that. I mean, I feel like his performance here is really bad. Tommy Lee Jones as Two Face. They missed the mark on who Two Face is. As a Batman fan, I just feel
Mhm.
like they never got him right, and like they portray his like rule of flipping a coin. Like when he flips one the side of the coin, that's it. But in the scene when Riddler and Two Face invade Wayne Manor, he constantly flips his coin to get to the scarred half so that he can hurt Bruce Wayne or shoot him. And like that's so out of character. And so right away, that's just not being true to the character.
Mhm.
Um, and besides Two Face being the worst, Dr. Chase Mourinho, played by Nicole Kidman, the psych woman that falls in love with Bruce Wayne, or well, falls in love with Batman. She's okay, but she's a very interesting potential character that just doesn't get explored enough, and she's just there as an eye candy, and like she has this, and part of my friends have a boner on Batman. It's like, what? I mean, look, she is beautiful in this movie. I mean, not get me wrong, but it's just so like wasted opportunity as a character, and I feel like she's the worst aspect of this film. What do you think?
I think the '90s, late '80s, early '90s Batman movies kind of have a problem with Batman too, which is kind of the
Yeah,
reverse problem that a lot of the modern Marvel movies have, where the main characters are the ones who are very compelling, but the villains are forgettable. I think it's kind of the reverse here, where
right.
the villains get a lot of attention and are very attention grabbing as well, but Batman is understated. He's not really a presence there. He's just someone who does the right thing and keeps doing that. So he's not very compelling. So I'd say a lot of the interest comes from the villains in these movies. So I think, we could have seen some more out of Batman as well.
Right. I agree. I think this movie does it better, giving um more meat to Batman as a character. I think Val Kilmer is a great actor, and I think
Oh yeah.
his portrayal of Bruce Wayne is the best in this series of the Tim Burton and Batman, the Tim Burton and Joel Schumacher films. I don't think his Batman portrayal is not really good. I just he doesn't make it unique or separate from his Bruce Wayne persona like Keaton did in the Tim Burton films. Um, uh, I like your point. I guess the one character we haven't talked about. I mean, the other big thing about Batman Forever was Robin. Robin finally got into this film. I want to ask you what do you think of Chris O'Donnell's portrayal of Robin? Did you were you happy to see Robin finally in these films after just being not really bring into the Tim Burton films? What do you think?
I think he shows up at the right point. He wouldn't have really made sense in the earlier Batman movies. I
Right.
think that having Robin there kind of harkens back to like that 60s era Batman, which is really like wacky and out there, and no one takes himself too seriously. So
Right.
him showing up now kind of gives Batman, takes away some of the drama of Batman's whole arc,
Uh,
because part of it is how he is the loner, how he has no one. But admittedly, after a while, it's hard to pay attention to a character who doesn't really interact with other people. So it's good that after a while, after you've kind of grounded Batman, set up who he is, you can bring in other people for him to interact with and kind of have him develop and expand as well. So I think they brought him in at the right time. And I think at the same time, Robin, as kind of the younger, cooler character, also would was a marketing decision. Bring in a younger audience as well, bring in people who are going to be kind of wowed and impressed by this cool young guy Robin, as opposed to Batman. So it brings in a different generational aspect to it too.
that's true. Yeah, especially with the 60 fans, like you bring now the Batman 1966 fans that remember Batman, Robin. That's how you can bring them into these movies finally. And yeah, I think it's good. So let's get into. Do you want? Let's. What are we gonna do? What do you think? Like I'm jumping around with my notes.
Sure.
What do you think? What it did for Batman? What do you think? What it did for Batman as a character and as a franchise? What do you think this movie did?
As a character, I think it kind of let him stay in place and move the world around him. So Batman, for a lot of intents and purposes, is the same Batman, even though it's a different actor. I think he's very much the same kind of Batman that we saw in the earlier movies. I think for the Batman franchise, though, they kind of pivoted, did a whole 180 with it. Tim Burton's directing style has always been very dark and probably always will be.
Right.
Very interested in like kind of gothic styling. And I think they were trying to get away from that and try something that would be more approachable, more entertaining. I think they were making a conscious move away from the darker Batman style.
Right. That's true. Yeah. I think it couldn't if we hit the right direction with Batman and Robin. I think it'd be kind of cool to see a lighter Batman film and
Mm-hmm.
how successful it can be because Returns. I mean, I want to say right now, Returns is not a bad film. It's just a weak movie with a weak story plot, and and it just is very mean spirited. So I just feel like it basically alienated so many people, and especially children, because of the parents just felt like it was just not right for the kids, which is right. You know,
Yeah,
I
my mom didn't let me watch Batman Returns when I was a kid.
yeah, I wasn't in that situation because like it was weird. My mom let me watch that over the '89 film, which is weird.
Yeah,
So
the 89 film's definitely dark too. I just remember looking at that kind of spooky cover art and thinking that I didn't want to watch it. It looked too scary when I was little.
oh yeah, like I mean, I will say the posters of these four Batman films are pretty cool, and especially the Tim Burton ones. I love the Returns posters. They're very like just like cool. I love the black
Yeah.
background with the characters of Penguin and Catwoman, but it just shows how dark it was. Um, okay, let's see. Okay, we're almost into that end time. Let's talk about the big old question: is it your favorite Batman film?
No, I wouldn't say it's my favorite Batman film or even up there, but that's okay. And I think part of the difficulty with doing a Batman movie is
Mm,
that it's hard to nail down Batman. I think it's hard to say exactly what his personality is because
right.
I think every different director and writer takes a different stab at what he's like. Is he just totally depressed and miserable and angry? Is he kind of a just figure in an unjust world? Is he, more sardonic and sarcastic and kind of funny in a dark way? Or is he just outright wacky and silly and kind of addressing a bunch of even more ridiculous villains? So I think everyone takes a different look at Batman. I don't think uh, the Schumacher Batman movies are the direction that we've kind of collectively decided is what Batman is like,
No.
but it's definitely a fun kind of side turn off area, a different path that we could have gone down and ended up not going down. So it's they're kind of like more cultural artifacts than great movies or anything like that. But I think that's totally fine. And for the time period too, I'm sure plenty of children growing up in the '90s enjoyed them. I know when I was growing up, there were plenty of movies now that if I watched them, they'd probably be terrible. But I liked them when I was 6, so I'm
Yeah.
sure there are a lot of people who, 6 and 8 years old, loved Batman Forever and still have fond memories of it. So I'm glad it happened, and I'm glad we can kind of look back on it too.
Fondly, not
Yeah.
not as bad as Batman and Robin. For those who don't like Batman. Okay. I guess this is a tough question. Like, if you think of out of your head, Jan, how you rank this film in the Batman film series? Excluding the animation stuff, we're just ranking the live action ones. Like, how you place this in those?
Uh, if I had to give an answer, I'd say it's near the bottom. But I don't know if it's fair to rank it against some of the other ones too, because
Mm,
it's almost in a totally different genre. It's definitely. I don't think it has a lot in common with Batman v Superman.
no, no, it's
No,
not. It's
it's
it's way better than Batman v Superman, in my opinion. I will.
yeah. This movie's supposed to be funny.
Yeah, exactly. It's supposed to be fun for the kids, and then that I will agree with those terms with the film.
Yeah,
And it has cool moments. It feels like a Batman film, and I like the gadgets. I like how Batman fights, and I love the design of Gotham City. This is most like great designs of Gotham City ever look.
yeah. I think a lot of credit is due to the kind of costume designers and set designers as well for what they did with it.
Yeah,
It seems like they had a good amount of opportunity to have some fun with everything there.
yeah, I agree. Okay, I think we can. That's probably it. Thank you, Jan, for joining me on
Yeah,
this
thanks
session.
for having me.
Um, I have a question. Have you seen RoboCop 2? Um, it
Uh,
like
I have not.
okay. If you're interested on talking about that film, by any chance, because that has a big anniversary. RoboCop 2. It has its 30th anniversary. This week actually. Tomorrow. So
I don't know if I'll get to that in time, but
yeah, but later on, if when you're free, maybe we should do that as the next episode. What do you think, buddy?
um, yeah, maybe. I don't know when I'll have time to kind of sit down and get through RoboCop. So if I know you've mentioned you've got other people who are looking to join in too. So if any of them have already seen it, um,
Oh, yeah. Let's see. I don't want to mention that. Everybody who's listening to this podcast, trying to get.
I mean, we can cut the recording off.
Yeah. But I want to say, so anything else? Last thing you want to say, Jane?
Um, I think I'm all good. Anything else you want to add?
Yes.
Any thoughts on Batman Forever?
Well, I'll just quickly say, I think Batman Forever is a okay film. It's very adorable. It's better over Batman Returns as a film. It's more cohesive. You can understand the plot. There is good performances, and there's bad performances as well. But overall, it's a more enjoyable piece than Batman Returns. Now, as a Batman film, it does a better job handling Batman as a character and being a Batman film overall than really the Tim Burton films, and I think I will appreciate that. I will like consciously say that I think it is number 10 in my ranking of the Batman live action films. I will never put either the two Batman films or Batman Robin in my list. I think Forever deserves that because at least focus on Bruce Wayne more, and I appreciate that as a film. And
Yeah.
and they handled the five characters well enough in the film that I appreciate that. And it has great action, better action over Forever. On the soundtrack, of course, everyone talks about the soundtrack in this film. A couple of the stuff in Batman and Batman Returns and whatever. This has a good soundtrack. "Kiss from a Rose" is famous. It's one of the best songs ever you listen to. U2 song "Hold Me, Kiss Me, Thrill Me," and whatever it is that long.
Yeah.
It's very good too. It's a good soundtrack. I think it's better than the '89 soundtrack with Prince. You mentioned how outdated it is. At least the soundtrack for Batman Forever fits into the decade where '89 feels outdated when you hear Prince, and it just you kind of know it's from the '80s. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, just in my opinion. I'm not saying
Mm.
that that's everyone's agreement. I'm just saying that like I feel like that makes the film outdated in
Mm.
my point of view, and in my opinion, that's really it.
Yeah.
So, thank you, everyone, in the YouTube or whatever, from the internet space. Thank you for listening to the Andreas Pop Culture Talk podcast. I hope you guys really enjoyed this Batman Forever 25th anniversary talk. We had me and Jayan today. I'm very happy that I finally got this off the ground. This has been a long due thing, and as I mentioned in this recording, that I am planning to have more podcasts in this channel. And obviously, I mentioned RoboCop 2, but that's not really definitely because I need to find co-hosts. And Jayan, as mentioned before, he cannot able to do that. He has, point in prior projects and stuff in his life he has to tend to, and that's very important. So just bear with us. Bear with my channel's new content that I'm doing podcasting for the first time in my channel. I want to say thank you so much, everyone, to listening to this podcast. Subscribe and like my channel, Andreas, the Pop Culture channel. Andreas, sorry, yeah, I'm losing my voice. Tongue, twist tongue. Andreas, the Pop Culture Guy, channel presents. Subscribe, like, and plus my videos. Subscribe and like my videos, and that's it. So thank you, Jane, for coming today's video.
Yeah, of course. And I hope you have a great day.
Thanks. Okay, now let me stop the recording.